This is a demonstration of Granite, the warehouse management system from Cradle Technology Services. The use case today is one where we're using Granite for tracking and tracing of serialized items, and the specific use case is to track card machines and equipment being brought into stock and issued out. So what you'll see on my screen is that I have the Granite desktop application logon, and people have usernames and passwords, and we have a security layer within Granite. I then have an internet browser opened over here where I have effectively the scanner screen. When Granite is used on a scanner, what would happen is you'd use an internet browser, but you can also use that internet browser on your desktop application to access the scanner functionality. Now, because Granite is predominantly built around barcoding and mobile computers, the 90% of the functionality within Granite is actually in the web browser scanner functionality. This functionality is also customizable, so you'll see that my screen is, or my menu is specifically customized for this application. I've removed some of the functionality around transfers and picking, etc. And then finally, I've got a notepad open here just to remind me of what I'm going to be run through and some of the usernames and locations and things like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the Granite desktop application by logging on, and I'm going to log on with our username 0, which is one of our admin users. What you'll see is that I've got the Granite desktop application and just some basics on the desktop application. I have an inbound tab for things coming in, outbound tab, things going out if you're picking against orders, etc. I've got an inventory tab which covers things like quality control and variance management, transfer management between branches, for example, basics of tracking entities and transactions. I'll go into more detail on tracking entities afterwards. And then any green icon is a reporting icon. So you can see I can look at stock detail and transaction reports, etc. I then have a stock take tab and a master files tab and integration. Granite can be integrated into various Sage products such as Evolution and Sage 300, and we're working on other integrations for Syspro and a number of other packages. So the first thing I want to cover is master files, and if we look under master files, I have users. This is where I set up and maintain my users. I have categories and types. They're fairly flexible, free format categories and types, and they can apply to either locations or item masters. So for example, I have got defined under categories, I've got the category called prototype with a description prototype and applies to a master item. Likewise, I could make it apply to a location. So that's categories, and types work the same way. I then have my locations. Now within Granite, one is going to typically set up any location you like, and one of the beauties about Granite in its simplicity is that you can define a new location and move stock into it literally on the fly. So right now, if I look at what locations I've defined for this demonstration, I've defined receiving, Mug and Bean, Woodmead, Gauteng stores, C. Collins, who would be a technician, and ET Electronics, and W. Cape, Western Cape stores. So the information that you look at the types, I've defined stock types as well as an on-site type, which is when I move the card machines into a store, and I've got a repair type as well. Now, just to give you an example, if I double click on C. Collins and I go to types, I could actually change the types from stock to on-site or repair. The idea behind this specific user or this specific location is that I'm going to book stock into this location. It would be the boot stock of a technician, for example, and that's another way to manage where the stock is. Right, so those are locations. To give you an example of how to add a location, I just click on new and I can add a new location. So I can say Eastern Cape stores, and the barcode that I assign to it, ECS, for example, and ERP location is when I'm integrating into an accounting system. The warehouse definition in the accounting system might just be ERP location 1. within ERP location 1 on the accounting system, we don't have any locations. But within Granite, we define all of the individual bin locations and locations that are categorized within ERP location 1. Similarly, I could have another location, ERP location 2. So I would have bin locations in one warehouse and bin locations in another warehouse defined in Granite, but in the accounting system, I only have the 2 warehouses. And Eastern Cape Stores is a stock location, so we save it, and I now have a new location for Eastern Cape Stores. Right, moving on to master items, or the item master. We keep certain information here. The top piece over here would be the information around the code and the description and unit of measure that's specific to an item in the system. Now, if we're integrated into one of the accounting systems, then these would typically be populated from the accounting system, so we wouldn't manage it in Granite. However, there's additional data over here that we manage in Granite. Things like, is there a default put away location? Is there a default pick face? And this is predominantly for warehouses where we are picking and put away and managing pick slips, etc. In this specific demonstration, I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to be tracking individual items with serial numbers. So that's the item master, and you can see if I right click or click on these, you can see the item master that I've got, and if I click on the magnifying glass, you can see that I have defined those 3 items. So simple card and a code, which is a thumbs up attachment to a cell phone, and another specific card reader, which is an absolute card reader. Right, so those are the item codes. Now clicking on inventory and go to stock detail, you will see I have one item in stock, which is serial number 909010. It's a simple card code, simple card reader demo. Its item categories prototype. There's one on hand in the Gauteng stores, and it even has an EMEA number. I'm using the batch field in Granite to manage the EMEA number, and I've changed again, this is customizable. I've changed the heading of the display to show EMEA rather than batch. Right, this is the current stock on hand. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the web browser, and I'm going to log on to the web browser. I'm going to log on as admin, and the password is A, I think. Okay. And you can see the menu here. I've got log off, I've got inbound with receiving and take on. I've got inventory where I can move, reclassify, manage quality control, and I can scrap. I've got stock take, which is confirm in stock. So for an item that is serialized, rather than doing a stock take by scanning a pallet, for example, and counting the quantity on the pallet, what I've done is I've chosen the stock take model that says confirm in stock. So when I do a stock take, I put something in stock take mode, and then I scan all of them to confirm that they're back in stock. Anything that I haven't scanned, I have to go find, or I then have to remove from the system. And I've got a lookup and a data capture option, which I'll explain later. Now, in our normal Granite menu, you will see that there's a lot more items in this menu. So the menu is customizable as well. Right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some more stock. So again, using the scanner, I would go up to a shelf, for example, and I would do take on. So this is to capture stuff that's already in stock that we don't have on the system. I'm going to go to take on. I'm then going to say this is initial stock take on. That's just a comment to record against the transaction. So every transaction that we do is recorded and date and time stamped with, for example, a comment or a document reference and the from and to values. So it's initial stock take on. Where am I taking it on? In the receiving location or in the Gauteng stores location, for example. So I'm going to take it on in the receiving location. What is its item code? Let's take on another simple card. So here you would scan the item code. Now on certain items you have the item code in barcode form. You could scan that barcode. Alternatively, you can capture the item code. Right, what is its serial number? Let's try and keep consistency. So I'm going to say it's the next one in that sequence, number 11. And its EMEA number, I am just going to put a whole digit in. and confirm the quantity. This is the quantity against the serial number. In this case, it's always going to be 1. I can default it to always be 1. So it says Granite says successful, and I have created a serial number 99011. It's then, instead of going back to the beginning to comment, it's gone back to the next serial number. So I can go and say I'm going to take the next one as well, and all the other details apply, the location, the comment, and the product, and it's another serial number with an EMEA number and quantity, and then another serial number, the 13, an EMEA number, and a quantity. Right, so I can go home, back to my menu. If I go back to Granite Stock Detail, this is the Stock Detail screen, and I refresh it, you'll now see I've got 4 items in stock. Okay, so moving on, those 4 items in stock, the one is in Gauteng stores, and these 3 are in receiving. So I'm now going to need to move the ones from a receiving area into the stores. I'm literally going to go inventory, move, document reference, or a reference document. Again, you can leave this empty. Alternatively, you can use it if you have a specific document number for doing a bulk transfer of stock or something like that, or a job card. You would use the document reference. I'm going to leave it empty for this move. Comment, I'm also going to leave empty because I'm just moving things from the receiving location into the Gauteng stores. So my location that I'm moving to is Gauteng stores, and then I now scan serial numbers. So serial number 11, okay, you can see it throws an error if it's incorrect, and it's because there are 4 zeros in front, not 3. And then I'm going to scan number 12 and number 13. It's as simple as that. I've moved all 3 of those. If I refresh my stock on hand, they're now in the stores. Right, so let's say I want to move 2 of those items to Cape Town stores. I could define them as moving to in transit and then moving to Cape Town. Alternatively, I can just move them direct to Cape Town and then they would arrive there. So a good idea would be to have an in-transit location. So I'm going to go to my master items locations, and I'm going to define a new location called in transit, and its barcode would be IT, and its type would still be stock, and save it. Right, so now I've got an in-transit location, and if I go back to my scanner and I decide I'm going to go inventory move, the document reference, this is a branch transfer number 1. The comment, stock to the Western Cape branch. The location that I'm sending it to is in transit, and I now scan the serial number again. And I'm going to send number 12 and number 13. Right, so now if I refresh my stock, you'll see I've got number 12 and 13 in transit to Cape Town. When it arrives in Cape Town, they're going to do exactly the same thing. They're going to go inventory move, and their document reference, they could use the same branch transfer document, and then they're going to say receive in Cape Town, and the location is the Cape Town stores. Let's check what the location definition is. The barcode is WS for Western Cape stores, so they would scan their barcode. Now typically that barcode would be printed out and would be on the desk in Cape Town or in the store, so they could scan it. And now the barcodes that they received are scanned, and number 12, again, it's not moving because I have to specify 4 zeros, not 3, and so it validates every transaction and every barcode. And we now go to stock detail and refresh. Those 2 items are now in the Western Cape stores. Right, so movements of stock are as simple as that. I'm going to do a couple of quick movements to move, again, that same stock from to a technician. So, for example, I would go inventory move, and the document reference might be boot stock 01, comment issued to technician, and the location is my technician, who I've defined as CC01. So he would scan, for example, his card, which has a location on it that defines him, CC01, and he's going to take, again, the other two, number 10 and number 11, that are sitting in Gauteng stores, and they're now with him. So go back to refresh, they're now sitting with C. Collins. So I've got a track that those two devices are sitting with C. Collins. C. Collins is now going to take his laptop, and when he gets to Mug and Bean, for example, he logs in, C. Collins and password. I'm now logged on as C. Collins, and one of the reasons I'm doing this is to show you all the other transactions so far have been done by admin. I'm now logged on as C. Collins. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to do an inventory move. This time it's it might be a job card, and it's a new unit to Mug and Bean, new unit to Mug and Bean, and the location is now that debtor's code or that that vendor. Alternatively, we could just have a generic location for vendors, but in this case it's G0001, G0001, which is a predefined location for Mug and Bean. So you can see so far it says Mug and Bean Woodmead, new unit to Mug and Bean, and the serial number I'm giving him or them number 10. So now if I refresh, you can see that it's now at Mug and Bean, and you'll also see that the location type is on site as opposed to in stock. So the beauty about this is that this grid is now filterable and movable. I can take the location type and I can drag it up here to group by, so I can see what stock is on site and what stock is stock location types. I can also say group by location, so take my location type down and group by location, and now it shows me that C. Collins has got that, Mug and Bean's got number 10, and 12 and 13 are in the Western Cape stores. I have a number of other options here. I can do sorts, so you can sort by barcode by clicking in the column header. You can do searches, so for example, if I move that location down, if I just know that I've got multiple Mug and Bean locations, I just want to see everything in Mug and Bean, I just type in Mug and it sorts, it filters by Mug, and that drop down shows me I can have it equal to, not equal to, begins with, or contains, for example. Right, so, and that's the general principle of how all of these grids work. So any grid that you see in Granite works in the same way. I can filter it, I can group it, I can do various things with it. I can even add and remove columns using this options field over here, or options button over here. Anything in this grid can be exported to Excel by clicking on Export, and I can now save it as an Excel format. Alternatively, I can print it by going to Print Preview and Print. Right, I'm going to do two more moves. Basically, C. Collins discovers in testing that number 11 is actually is faulty, so he needs to go and book it into repairs, and what we're going to do is just go to, again, do a move, inventory move, and I'm going to say he's using a job card, so he'll use his next job card number, and he'll say book to repairs. Now this may be done via the stores rather than via direct from the technician, but to save time I'm going to book it to repairs directly from the technician. He's going to take it to ECE, who are EC Electronics Repairs Center, and he's going to scan the serial number. Extra 9, that's why scanning is better than typing. And he's now moved it successfully. If we refresh it, the one that was with EC Collins is now in a location of type repair at EC Electronics. Right. Let's say that comes back, or they say that it's not economical to repair, and we now need to scrap it. So what we're going to do is we're going to log off, and now back at stores or back at head office, someone would need to log on with an admin user, and what they would then do is go inventory scrap. I'm assuming that there's a document reference that they have to scrap things. They can put the document reference in. So you would have done the paperwork up front and then capture the document that you're using. There might be an auditor's reference number or signature or something like that. And again, these fields are customizable. What is the comment? It's uneconomical to repair. It's possible to have a list of comments that are predefined and that we could just scan into that comment field. And then the serial number 9011. And again, because it's a sensitive transaction, do I want to confirm it? That's the detail of it, and I do want to scrap it, yes. And I now can refresh, and you'll see it's disappeared from my stock listing. If I go to inventory transactions, these are all the transactions that have taken place on the system so far. So these are all the moves, those are the take-ons of the item, and that's the scrap. And you'll see the user who did them. So for example, there were admin, there's C columns, there's admin, those are the users, and all the information is included in here. Now you'll see I haven't customized this form to say EMEA number under serial, and the barcode should say serial number. But let's go and look at all transactions for the one that I've scrapped, number 11, and those are all the transactions. So what you'll see is they are date specific, and I've got the take-on transaction, which was done today at 12:01. In fact, that was me. I think my date on my virtual machine is incorrect. It's not actually 12 a.m. And I've got a take on. I've got various moves that were done. So at 03, at 07, and 11, I did movements, and I should have a from and to location over here. So from location receiving to Gauteng stores, then from Gauteng stores to C Collins, then from C Collins to EC Electrical, and those were the references, and there's the comment against those transactions. So I've got a full record of what happened with this one, and then I've got the scrap transaction showing that it's uneconomical to repair, and I scrapped it directly from the EC Electronics location, and the reference that I used was scrap 001, and there's even the document reference over here. So what I've done, that was the auditor's reference field. So what I've done is I've shown you that we created stock, we moved stock around to satisfy the various location movements and tracking into those locations, and we then moved it to repairs, and we scrapped an item, and it's all controlled with user IDs and logons, as well as all transactions with all serial numbers managed. I can go to, for example, a stock summary screen and say, show me what I've got in stock at a summary level, and then there's various reports. So go to a scrap report and it will show me, okay, I probably didn't configure the scrap report. There's various configurations that get done for various reports. Movement report, for example, those are all movements that took place. And you could print this movement report as a formal report and get someone to sign it off and to confirm the movement. So there's my stock movements for the day. Right, there's additional functionality that I haven't demonstrated or configured for this specific demonstration is under outbound order execution. If there were orders in the system for sale, you would see them under an order execution screen, and you would see the progress and the lines against the order, and then I would pick against that order, which removes things from stock. In this case, in this use case, because we're not selling the items, I'm not picking or moving stock out. Likewise, I didn't use transfer execution and transfer documents because all I did was do moves. But in theory, Western Cape could create a transfer requisition through a transfer document, and then you would pick against that transfer so it validates that they only get the stock that they specifically want move it into in transit, and then receive it in Cape Town as a transfer transaction rather than a move to in transit. We have a thing called quality control, where basically I can go and put any item on hold. That means that in theory I can't scrap it or remove it from the system because it's on quality hold until I release it. That functionality may not be used in this simple card demonstration, but it may be used in a chemical demonstration or something that has got a specific quality hold requirement. We use it quite extensively in our pharmaceutical implementations. So the last thing is stock take. If I go to stock take, I've got two modes of stock take. I've got a status control stock take, and then I've got a stock take session where I create a session and then I process the session. So in this instance, because I'm using serial numbers, status control is the better way to do stock control. All I would do is I'd go and put everything into stock take mode. So what I do is I select the items and I put them into stock take mode. And I say this is mid-July stock take. That's just a comment as to what I'm doing, and I continue with the transaction. So they're now in stock take mode. If I switch view and go and look at things in stock take mode, these are the items. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my store and I'm going to scan those items back into stock. So I go stock take, confirm in stock, comment is July, let's just say mid-July check. And now I literally go and scan the serial numbers that I'm bringing back into stock. And if I go now and refresh, I've only got one in the stock take mode. And if I go back to in stock, those two are back in stock. So right now, if I go to my inventory stock detail, okay, the configuration shows that it's all in stock, but normally I have a column that shows whether what the stock take mode is and whether it's in stock or not. Right, so that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to demonstrate around using Granite to manage serialized asset type items with inbound. One can also do inbound receiving, and I didn't demonstrate that, but that's where you have a purchase order. Under inbound, I actually have a receiving document, which would be a purchase order, and I could go and maintain it and enter it on Granite. So I can go and create a new receiving document on Granite, and that this would, for example, be purchase order number 1, and its status is released. I'm buying it from EC Electronics, and I would now go and save the header, and then I enter line items. That is my line items. So basically save the header of the document, and now go and say for line number 1, I'm going to buy a simple card reader, and I want 10 of them, and I save that line. So I've got a purchase order for 10 simple card readers, and I save the line. When they arrive, I can use my scanner to receive them using the receiving, as opposed to previously I did stock take on, which is existing stock, I'm now receiving against purchase order. So if I put in the purchase order number now, plus 3 zeros, then you can see I'm looking for 0 of 10, what's the delivery note number, and the location, I'm receiving it into the receiving area, and then the item code is simple card, and then what's the serial number, number 20. At this stage I don't have an EMEA number, but I'm going to just scan one, and I'm receiving 1, and then I go back and receive each serial number in the same way, 9021, and I would scan the serial number and scan the EMEA number and confirm quantity. So I've received, now you can see I've received 2 of the 10 so far on order. If I go to my receiving execution, there's my order, and I've received 2 of the 10, and that's my progress against the order. So I can receive against the purchase order. And if I go back to stock details and refresh, there's my extra 2 items that I received into stock. Right, thanks very much for watching. Granite we have a philosophy around Granite that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. We keep it really simple. There is additional functionality that I haven't demonstrated for this use case. It was specifically to demonstrate the use case of having serialized items that are either transferred and moved between various locations. They can be issued out to a customer, returned back. They can be sent to repairs, turned back. They can be scrapped, and they can be managed. And various reports are available for those items. So thank you very much.